What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Free Toaster podcast. I'm your host, Carlos Caro. Yesterday, I sat with Nicky Senyard, the CEO of Fintel Connect. We had a really interesting discussion on LLMs, pieces of software like ChatGPT and Claude and how they might disrupt the affiliate marketing landscape. And I actually just posited that it was going to disrupt, and she disagreed. We had a little bit of discussion around that point. And then we spent some time discussing the time frame under which this might happen, some of the blockers. So, she also talked us through a bunch of the research that she and the Fintel Connect team have been doing on how consumers use software like ChatGPT and Claude and the LLMs. So if this is a topic you're interested, I think you'll find this conversation really interesting. Just a little bit more background on Nicky, in case you're not familiar with her. She's a two-time founder, an industry veteran with over 25 years in performance and SaaS marketing technology. And as you'll see through the show, like a kind of classically trained marketer. She built and successfully exited her first affiliate technology company before co-founding Fintel Connect to help financial service companies scale digital growth. Nicky was most recently named the 2025 Industry Legend and at the Global Performance Marketing Awards, and her insights have been featured in Forbes, an American Banker. You might find her writing on LinkedIn and the Fintel blog as well. So with that context, let's jump right into the conversation. Nicky, good morning. Great to have you on the pod.
Thanks so much for having me.
So I know you've been writing quite a lot on LinkedIn lately about affiliate marketing, but you've also been publishing on kind of the disruption that's going on right now with LLMs and how that's impacting search, how people shop for credit cards. And I was curious, can you please set the scene for someone that's been maybe heads down in their business, their program? What's actually been changing lately in affiliate marketing because of the LLMs, and like what hasn't changed at all?
So what hasn't changed is affiliate marketing is a bottom of funnel conversion tactic. That hasn't changed. And I'm going to sort of like dispute your disruption word at the beginning because I think it's just another layer of change. The way that I'd like to contextualize what we're experiencing at the moment in digital acquisition is that I've had the fortunate position of starting before Facebook existed. So I've been actually doing digital acquisition sort of since about 2002.
Okay.
So that's when the web was really young and we were all trying to work out what was going on. But the thing that has always happened with digital acquisition is we've always had transparency on tracking, whether it be the click-throughs, whether it be the impressions really early on down the track. And I think what's really been happening is that we're at a new wave of channel, I suppose. We've had web, we've had social with Facebook. Then we get social with Instagram and TikTok, which is sort of like another version of it. And now we've got LLMs or AEO or GEO. So I think as a digital marketer, I'm seeing it as a new opportunity. I'm not seeing it so much as a disruption. I'm seeing, hey, we've got somewhere else to capture eyeballs and capture intent and all of those sorts of things. So what's actually happened is that I think LLMs have been a discussion point since probably in the general community, since probably late 24. 25, they started to grab some momentum and we started to see it impact on consumer behavior towards the end of late 25. Verging into 26, now it's mainstream. I think it's probably the best way of describing it. So the LLMs for me just become another discoverability tool. So what's actually happening is, going back to your original question, affiliate marketing hasn't changed. It's still bottom of funnel. But what has changed is the two layers above, which is awareness and consideration. So now we've got people using LLMs for awareness. You know, what's the best loan product? Or I saw the article where you see that the agents are going to take over and, you know, like I've got a $4,000 on my credit card for the holidays, and what am I going to do with it? So I think as you say, there's some major blockers to that happening. But nevertheless, in discoverability, LLMs, Chat, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, wherever, are creating a new way for customers to synthesize the amount of content out there to distill it down into what they're looking for. So I see LLMs as a distillation tool. And of course, in that, it changes. It changes now. It's just not about organic search. It's not just about SEM. It's not about organic social. It's more. So I think that's probably a very long answer, but hopefully it's a scene for you.
No, that's great. I think we're seeing the same things based on what you just shared. I think my particular lens when I think disruption, if I put myself in a lender's shoes right now, nothing has really changed. Like, I'm still sourcing from affiliates and direct mail, search and social. Like, my broad mix, my acquisition mix, looks very similar today as it did 5 years ago or even 10 years ago. So you can't really see in the top level metrics any kind of disruption over there. However, when you look at, like, NerdWallet reported earnings last week, and their card business is down more than 50%. They're really getting disrupted because visitors that used to come straight from Google to look at their top 10 pages, they're in Claude and they're in ChatGPT, and they're not making it over to NerdWallet. So their business is probably fairly chaotic, feels disrupted, feels like it's changing rapidly. So I think when I say disruption, I think of the publishers.
Yes.
Because that does feel like it's getting disrupted. I don't know if you have a specific reaction to that.
Well, I do. It's sort of like, so there's an interesting dichotomy here. The dichotomy is that 90% of citations in the LLMs are from publishers. So that's one. Mm-hmm. Yet some of the click-through traffic, of course, we're in a no-click world. So, and we also know that about 54 in the research we've done, American survey, 54% are using chat for personal finance recommendations.
54. Okay. All
54%. Right. So that's probably is the disruption element that you're talking about. Yep. But I go back to what you were saying, that from a business,
from a lender's perspective, it doesn't feel like we're getting.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I think what's actually happening is that affiliates aren't going away, and they're crucial to that top of funnel because they're the ones 90% citations from affiliates, mm-hmm. right? So that's something, that's a point that you can't mess around with.
Yeah, but how do I monetize that citation? That's my issue. So if I'm NerdWallet and I'm getting the citations, but the click through is not coming, I feel like I'm losing my opportunity to monetize. Do you see it that way or no?
I see it two ways. So what we're actually working with is we're working with a massive amount of our clients on GEO optimization. So what we're actually now doing is we're actually working with clients strategically. What prompts do you want to be in? Who's got the prompt volume? All of these sorts of things. We're actually working with clients strategically for those placements. And what the publishers are doing, which you probably can't see when you look at the earnings report, because I think it's still a fledgling, I won't say revenue area, but a fledgling product area, mm-hmm. Is GEO packages. So what we're actually finding is most of the larger publishers actually have a specific package for GEO. So what they're optimizing to through insertion, through sponsorship, through different types of deal structures, they're actually optimizing for those placements. So they're actually, it's a pay for play at the present moment in time. But I think if I can just take one small step back, the only reason that this is all happening the way that it is at the moment, and I think it's really important for your lenders to understand the context of what it is there's no trackability. So what we're doing as digital marketers is we're looking at trending data. So just in the same way that there was a SEMrush that allowed you to see organic search volumes and all the rest of it, there's now tools out there for digital marketers that can optimize for GEO or AEO or LLM optimization. So as a digital marketer, we're looking at that trending data. But I think this is where my hypothesis comes in. And we were talking a bit earlier about maybe things that I'm passionate about. And so my passionateness is, as a futurist, how are the LLMs going to track? Because we know the abundance of ad dollars, which we can see already happening with ChatGPT with the ad placements. We know that there's an abundance of ad dollars that will go into the LLMs that needs tracking. So I think what we're in a bit of a, for the nerd wallets and the publishers of the world and all the rest of it, we're just in this transition period where there is no tracking, but I would almost bet my future career on the fact that there will be tracking.
Yeah, no, I mean, it seems hard to support a marketing ecosystem without
That's
that.
it.
I mean, am I hearing you right? The publishers, the nerd wallets, the bank rates of the world are buying placements in these LLMs. Did I hear you right? No.
Oh, yes.
Okay, they're buying placements, but they don't have the ability to track the output.
So basically what it is that they can, so Chat, I don't know the time frames, but Chat this year opened advertising.
Okay.
Right. So I don't know whether Nerd Wallet's doing it. I don't know whether Bankrate's doing it, but I do know others are doing it.
Got it.
And I know one of the publishers that we work with is the largest advertiser in finance on ChatGPT. So the ads are there.
How do I know if I'm seeing an ad in Chat? Is it really clear that it's an ad, or is it kind of look like organic content?
No, I think I actually haven't seen any because I haven't been searching for financial products in the US. I
search for them quite a bit. But I'm on Claude mostly, so that might be the reason. Yeah.
And it is because, but I think, can we also talk about another sort of like disruption? I'm now using your word, is that there is multiple engines, right? So we came from a world of Yahoo, Bing, and Google. Then we went to a world of sort of like Google with a little bit of Bing.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're in a world of Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, and each of them have a different algorithm. So guess what? As a lender or as a publisher, you need to decide where your audience is, and then you need to decide how to optimize for that engine. And the optimization processes are going to be different.
Mm-hmm. Man.
So it's sort of like becomes a bit of I like to call it a tapestry of change. And the reason I call it a tapestry of change is because the principles of I would never give up organic search engine optimization. I just would never. So the fundamentals are still there. But what you've got is the LLMs are using Google to source content. And that helps them optimize. And they've got their own different crawlers out there. I mean, we actually have just upgraded our fraud detection technology in Fintel Connect. And now we're actually able to discern different types of bots. So now we're able to discern web crawling bots from the chat engines or LLMs, and as well as sort of like information seeking bots, and then of course fraudulent bots.
Gotcha.
But it's really interesting that, you know, like we've now down into that level of discerning bot type that are crawling the different websites. So I think it's the tapestry's changed. We've got different engines. We've got different audience uses of the different engines. We've got the citations coming from different places. Our experience is citations in the LLMs are 90% non-branded, which means the lender has a very, like a 1 in 10 chance of being quoted.
Yeah.
Citation. And the other 9 times is coming from publishers or user-generated content or whatever.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand that point. So I asked a question about, what would be a good example? What's the smartest way to refinance my credit card debt?
Yep.
You're saying when I get that answer, if there's a citation, it's unlikely to come from Chase or Amex or a brand. It's some publisher. Got it. Why is that?
because their content is better optimized. So what the LLMs are actually looking for, it's sort of like understanding organic search, the organic search algorithm. You need to understand the LLM algorithm.
Got it.
And what the LLMs are searching for is neutrality. So what they're looking for is they're looking for comparisons. So a domain will get more authority if it's got more comparisons on it.
Got it.
So a brand is very unlikely to put a comparison of themselves and their major competitor on their own branded site.
Sure. I've seen some brands do it, but you're right. As a general principle, I think that holds up.
That's it. So I mean,
yeah,
there's other ways of doing
yeah.
it. You know, there's other ways of getting in the algorithm, but they're looking for site domain authority. And domain authority usually isn't going to come from a single source. Domain authority is going to be a collection of voice, where the publishers win.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's interesting, and that might start to paint an opportunity for, candidly, a new type of publisher. And just to expand on that, I mean, the vast majority of publishers I've talked to, work with, are more neutral than a direct lender or a bank, but still have allegiances based on CPAs and performance. They're not perfectly neutral, at least in my opinion. And there could be an opportunity for a publisher that comes out and says, look, we're going to do business a different way. We're going to be a little bit more Switzerland about how we talk about products. We are 100% objective. Why? 2 reasons. The consumers probably might gravitate to that a little bit more. And B, over time, the LLMs, the chat engines, might start to find that content to be more useful to their customers. So yeah, that's interesting. Are you seeing anything moving already in that direction?
I would say that people are still, like, we're still in this evolution stage. We're still in the plumbing hasn't been set. We're still in the blueprint stage, if you know what I mean. Like, it's all quite theoretical, and we're testing out some different ways that it's going on. But I would absolutely say that battle lines have not been drawn yet. And I think we're still in discovery, because I think the engines are still, I mean, we've still got such a lot of false positives with the engines, which I can't actually remember whether that was one of your barriers to why people will just lean into the engine agents to make choices, is because their logic isn't perfect. Their critical thinking ability is non-existent. And their data sources of how they knit things together is not real world perfect. So I think what we're finding at the moment is we're finding the power of the synthesization, but we definitely haven't found the power of the pinpointing the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, publishers then have a really wide sway in terms of how they position themselves in this new discoverability world. Brands do, of course, as well.
Mm-hmm.
Lenders have to. It was actually interesting. I was at a conference earlier this year, which I was presenting on LLMs and credit card acquisition and things like that. And one of the things that somebody said was brands themselves, lenders, need to get their sites in order for best practices within their comfort for LLM visibility, which is making sure that the content is very clean, making sure that it's up to date constantly, making sure that it's sort of like LLMs love frequently asked questions.
Right. Yep.
You know, just all of those sorts of things. And people don't actually realize your lenders may be absolutely fascinated to know if they do a analysis of call center questions and of chatbot questions, they may have the perfect material to rank for the LF in the LLMs.
Right.
Because that's the questions customers are asking.
And those pages don't necessarily even need to be human visible, right?
That's it. Oh, no, they don't. Absolutely do not need to be.
You could just index a whole bunch of stuff.
That's
the
it.
chatbots see it, and it's helpful
That's
only in
it.
that context. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then the second tranche after getting your what I call house in order,
Mhm.
but just structurally correct, then you get into, like leveraging the publishers that are already there. So the publishers are already appearing in these LLMs. They've already been indexed as domain authorities. Leverage that.
Yeah.
And then the third step is creating new pages or creating new structures or create on your own site. So it's sort of like a bit of a sandwich effect between do what you need to do to get there,
Mhm.
make sure you leverage what you can to leverage. And then third is do your own hard work in terms of maybe site restructures or overhauls or whatever else, but do that last.
Got it.
You want to capture the other stuff as it comes along.
Yeah. I want to take a quick break in the action here. If you want to support the show, the number one thing you can do is go to thefreetoaster.com and sign up for our newsletter. You're going to get a couple pieces per week of news, information, insights, and podcasts like the one you're listening to right now at the intersection of marketing, lending, and technology. That's our niche. We don't plan to go outside of that. It's the only publication I've seen out there on the internet that dials into this zone. So if you want to support us, sign up and share it in your favorite Slack channel. Yeah, so let's maybe pivot for a moment. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of someone marketing a credit card or a deposit product. I'm on the buyer side of the market. What guidance would you have for a head of marketing as they think about the next 12 months? What are what's the research they should be doing? What are the tests they should be deploying? What's the technology they should be building? Because if I'm a CMO, I'm like, okay, this is changing, but I had most of the folks I talked to haven't done much to prepare for whatever's coming, and it feels like there may be a pivot, like an inflection point where this really accelerates, and then a year or two out, their marketing mix looks very different, and I'd be worried I get left behind because I'm not looking around corners. So what I guess how would you start to think about that?
There's a couple of things. I'm going to break it into two groups. I'm going to do external and internal. I'm going to leave external to last, and then I'm going to focus on the internal. The great thing, if you're a good digital marketer, you've probably come from somewhere else. You understand the metrics, you understand the tools, and you understand the levers and pulleys. So good, solid. You're not starting from ground zero in all of this. I think there's the way that I look at it is I look at it three silos of activities. One is be very clear about where the audience that you want. And that when I'm talking about that is whatever strategy you're using, are using at the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, or the bottom of the funnel. Apart from, you've got a product and an audience match. So I'm just saying you've got that clear. I don't need to go into that, but I'm talking about where the LLMs fit. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of prompts, and then therefore prompt volume. So just be very clear. You don't want to boil the ocean. You want to go sort of like for where your people are for the stage that they're at, right? So that's really important. The next thing is understand where your audience is searching, right? Are they a Claude user, like you've just mentioned, or are they a ChatGPT general consumer? But are they a paid ChatGPT?
Right.
It's sort of like you need to know who you're optimizing for and where. And then from that, making sure that if you've decided it's Gemini, funnily enough, in our research, Gemini is the one that leans furthest into brand mentions. It's really interesting. Gemini will mention a brand over 50% of the time over publishers.
Interesting.
So
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, but are your audience in Gemini?
That makes a lot of sense to me, actually. I mean, Google's already plugged into the advertiser world, right?
That's it. But I'm saying to you, is that where your audience is? That may be good for you as a brand, and it may give you sort of like vanity metrics, but is that really where your audience is going to be?
Right.
So that's sort of like find your audience, know your audience, and then find out where you look. So that could be anecdotal research. It could be some focus groups. It could be call center questions at the end of your call center. And you're like, where did you find us? Which one did you use? That sort of stuff. You need to find that information. That's just sort of like almost the most pivotal, crucial thing, because there's choices out there.
Right. And you have limited resources. You can't do it all. Yeah.
No boiling of the ocean here.
Right.
But it might be really interesting too, is that the distinction question that I would ask is, you may use Claude for work because that's the system that you're in at work, but do you use ChatGPT at home? Do you know what I mean? So just be very clear about personal use
context.
First.
Yeah. Not which chat agent do you like, but if you had a question about your credit card, which one would you use and why? And you might want to understand the why as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really smart.
So the engine, so audience, engine, and then decide where you want to be in the funnel. So as part of your marketing mix, this is not singular, right? It's not. So basically your two sections is awareness, or is it consideration, or is it intent? What prompt responses are you optimizing for? So understand that an LLM is one being, but in that there are millions of options. And when it comes down to these options, take back your old SEO experience, organic SEO experience. You've got prompt volume. So where is the most volume for the customers that you want? And then you've also got competitive pressures. Who am I up against on that prompt volume, and who has share of voice? Right? So this is digital marketing 101. I'm not saying anything that you don't know or any of these lenders don't know, but it's looking at it through the lens of the LLMs. And then that was all internal. And then external is you need a tool or you need a partner. So this is what's really interesting for us, is a lot of our clients actually have independent tools, but what they're doing is they're working with us directly for the optimization of the action. Because what you've got is you've got your own marketing directional choices that you get from that information from these different tools. But then what you've got is, how does the rubber hit the road externally with my publishers? And that's where they're working with us to optimize that opportunity. So they're using it for their own, like a SEMrush or a Google Analytics or whatever else internally to get this stuff all sorted out. But then what they're doing is they're looking to work with us or someone like you because of your relationship with the publishers to get it optimized.
Got it. So did I hear you right that you all are providing, because I had this question, how do I understand what prompts are being asked?
Yep.
How do I understand what's being displayed when those prompts, is that a service you all provide? Yep. Okay, that's news to me. How does that work?
Well, this is really new. Like we saw each other a month ago. I know it's sort of.
I was going to say, I didn't realize that. So So how does that work? Is that survey based? Is that you guys have bots that go to these?
We have tools. Okay. We actually use tools for that sort of thing. So in our process, so what we've got is what we call them GEO packages. So these GEO packages, what we do is we do discovery. We do a lot of those question asking, which is the reason I can go through this so meticulously, is because we do it. We do ask this question, and it's really
that's that's surveying consumers directly?
No, this is where we survey. What we do is we leverage the data that the lenders or our clients have. So we're basically making sure that because usually a lot of the clients that we work with have some of this data available, or we can sort of like search for it as it goes along.
And where's that coming from? Because those aren't the Anthropics of the world like hanging on to that, or are they sharing it out with the brands?
I think where the situation is that when they're doing the things that they're doing, I don't know where they're getting the data from, to be very frank, because it's one of those things that, or they're looking at general consumer behavior, like 90% of personal users or the general public between these age groups are using this search engine, or this specialist audiences. We know, for example, that Claude is much more of a business tech platform.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's sort of like what I will call truisms.
Sure.
Of it. And if they have the data, then we're using it, absolutely.
Got it.
But what at the very top level, when it comes to a strategy related through publishers or acquisition, then we're basically saying, you tell us where you want to be appearing. We'll tell you whether there's search volume, where you rank against your competitor, and what the sentiment is towards your product for that type of search. And so it becomes sort of like a backwards and forwards. We try to leverage their marketing intelligence so we don't start from scratch. But then when we give them the feedback, it may not be what they want. There's not enough search volume, or they're nailing it anyway and there's no work to be done.
Got it.
Or they're too far down. And it's sort of like, let's leave that to the piranhas everywhere else and we'll find a new pond to swim in.
Got it.
You know, it's sort of, that's why I'm saying it's discovery.
Got
like
it.
all with all of this is that there is not, well, you know, organic search isn't a perfect science until it becomes one.
Right. Right. So is the delivery of that, does it look like like a SEMrush, it's like an online interface? Okay. Okay.
We're running reports. So basically for us, because we're on the actionability area of it, we'll sort of like do the discovery, then negotiate with the publishers to get those placements in and see how it actually makes an example. I will send through to you. We've got a case study on how we've done this for one of our clients, and the results were phenomenal. So we have sort of like small anecdotal evidence as we're building this up, but it's really exciting. I'm taking it from an exciting perspective that we as digital marketers have a new area to play.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, there's no question. There's like a new wave coming. So I was not in the game when early 2000s. I was in college. Like I wasn't working. I wish I had been in the game for like the early days of paid search. People were buying clicks for like 5 cents. And making the arbitrage was insane.
1 cent. What is this 5 cent thing? It was 1 cent.
Yeah. And then the early days of Facebook. I mean,
yep.
So I guess let's talk about that. Let's talk about arbitrages for a second. Because like I can just distinctly remember those moments where like huge brands were built on specific channel arbitrages. Like we could probably name a bunch that came from like the early days of like the Google arbitrage.
Yeah.
There were the early days of the Facebook arbitrage. Do you see a similar opportunity here for like lenders to really crank out a disproportionate amount of traction in this moment that we're in? And if not, why not? What's different about this?
I just don't personally think the squeeze is worth the juice.
Okay.
Because I think what you've got very differently from in this era, next era, is that you've got the way that it processes data is so enormous. Whereas with the original Googles or the Facebooks or whatever else, it was still pretty rudimentary.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it was. I was talking to somebody the other day. At my heart, I'm a digital marketer. But I don't know if I could do it now. I'm so far away from the weeds.
It's gotten crazy.
Oh my gosh. So glad you said that.
Yeah, it's gotten really crazy. Yeah, no, I share the sentiment. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it's building on. So, you know, like we're in a day and age at the moment. There's no clickability. So it's sort of like all you can do is, and I think also
that's tough because then your attribution you're taking a lot on faith, right? Yeah.
And the other thing is also that the diversification of prompt responses and its specificality is massive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's going down into this, like your article. I'm sorry to refer back to it, but your article example, like I spend too much on my holiday.
Right.
Where do I go?
What do I do?
Or what do I do? Yeah. How do I pay this off? So it's sort of like one of those sorts of things. Like I'm a mum, I live in Tampa, I've got this situation, like that level of specificity is huge. And that's what you're optimizing for. So, like arbitrage is all about volume and owning the space in the volume that is profitable. I'm not quite sure I'm sure there's smarter people than me that can do this. But I just think when I look at your lenders and I think about your lenders, their business is in audience capture and conversion. And I don't know that the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you one that I'm kind of keeping an eye out for. I haven't seen it yet, but I think we're all trained to think in funnels: consideration, awareness, the up funnel, down funnel. That probably doesn't change like in a systematic way for marketers. I think that framework's helpful. That's probably universal. Okay. The thing I see changing in this particular format with the Claudes, the Chat GPTs, is that funnel gets so condensed that it feels like a quantum moment, right? Where it's like, have a problem and I just went from awareness, consideration, transacting to getting this shit done in like 2 seconds. And I don't think there's that many brands trained or set up to like take advantage of that reality. I think that's where we're going. And so like that's why I think there will be an arbitrage. I just don't know who's in the right place to grab it. Yeah.
So this is actually the other interesting thing is that we're having this conversation in terms of finance, right? Do I believe that that is happening now in retail? 100%, right? Yeah. So I think what we have the privilege of in finance is the breadth between that quantum move that we know is happening in retail, where we are, and the only reason that we have that privilege is because of trust. So I actually think that there is I've done it myself. I mean, who would have thought that I would have done purchasing on Instagram? But for $20, whatever, $100, wherever my test out thing is, I'll do it. But when it comes to my finances, when it comes to purchases maybe over $5,000, there's going to be some smart person is going to come up with the pivot point of where it becomes a throwaway transaction, which will happen in a quantum level of quantum space, a financial. And I think what we in the financial digital world will have the advantage of is the lessons they've learned. Right. So you're right. The arbitrage may absolutely happen, but we'll do it based on where we see retail win and lose.
Right. Yeah. No, we have the benefit of being like a fast follower here. Yeah.
That's exactly.
Yeah. No. And I think part of the reason what you said around trust, I think 100% lands. The other one that's very real, which you probably hear a lot about, is compliance. We can't just operate in a quantum, because there's all sorts of laws that we have to make sure we abide by.
Absolutely.
And that's going to take years for us to figure out the right frameworks, right?
And we're still trying to do them now. There's so much conversation that I see happening around compliance in terms of legacy, especially in the US with legacy frameworks, that what standard banks are being held to that were created before a digital environment, like there is all of the, and I mean, I'm not doubting the requirement for them. So I'm not, I'm all for consumer safety and all of that sort of stuff. But the difficulty is the legislators aren't keeping up, and sort of then it's open for interpretation because the world is different, and that creates another level of murkiness on the same thing. So I think what it is that I don't think any financial institution or lender can do anything but hold themselves to the standard by which they think is required and interpret the law as it is. And then as the LLMs, not even the publishers, but as the LLMs then potentially distort that in whatever way that they want, that's where it all becomes where does the line of responsibility lie for these LLMs? And I mean, there's bigger issues, in terms of, societal behavior and, and all of those sorts of things. So it is sort of like compliance is sort of like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to wrong information or presented in encouraging non-social behavior and, and all of this sort of thing. So it's definitely, I do try to focus on the positive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's easy to get scared if you really start to think through what's possible. But what's possible, like there's forks in the road of like really, really amazing futures, and there's some scarier ones. But yeah, I think it broadens the distribution of like possible outcomes. One thing I want to wrap soon, given we're almost at time, but I want to get your take on this, because I had to go remind myself of how long it took banks to get comfortable with mobile banking. Just as like a recent migration we all had to go through. The iPhone launched in 2007, and the Fed's been doing this survey where they ask people, do you bank on your smartphone? And they kind of keep track of that. And I think it took 8 years. I think the marker I saw was 47% of people were banking on their smartphones 8 years after the launch of the iPhone. That took a while, right? That wasn't entirely consumer driven. Some of that was consumer, but the banks just took years. Like, should I launch the app? How should I launch it? Security, all these worries, blah, 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 blah. So, but 8 years into it, only 50% adoption. ChatGPT, the major release, I know it was late 22, but just for a clean date, Jan 2023. Let's just say that's when it launched. It's been like 2.5 years. If I'm doing my math right, 24, 25, yeah. Is that right? 2.5, we're early here. We're early. What's your thought? Like, how long does it take for consumers to just default to Claude and ChatGPT or something like it? Maybe it's another brand, but something like that where they put a voice command in. It's like, hey, consolidate this debt. I don't care where you send it, but I'm paying 23%. I need to pay 9%. Go, just make it happen. I don't want to see forms. I don't want to see grids. I don't want to do anything. Just make it. Like, how far are we from that reality?
I think quite a long way.
Okay. Could you put a timeline on it? 10 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least. But doesn't mean that there'll be inchworming of changes along the way.
Got it.
So, like we're doing at the moment in this area scenario, we're doing discoverability. 100% we've moved from a Google spreadsheety, this is here and this is here, into a create a table for me.
Yeah.
What's the options? And then we refine and refine and refine and refine.
Yeah.
So, but what it goes back to is what we were talking about before is I think the more people use it in non-finance areas and get a positive bias towards success, that will accelerate the use into finance from a consumer's perspective. But remember, we're in a marketplace here. We've got two players. We've got the consumer, and then we've got the financial institution or the lender. And then we've got the government.
Sure. Yeah. That's a very important constituent here. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the more consumers use chat for their own success, small tasks, big tasks, brain-saving tasks, speed to task, whatever it is, the more then they'll start to trust the engines. Then you've got the willingness of banks to open that functionality to an agent, right? Because if you can imagine, can you just think back to now the level of security it takes to log into your bank account, the notifications you get from fraud. Like before, it's sort of like, let's say 7 years ago or 8 years ago, to do a chargeback, it was like a paper form and you had to sign something and all the rest of it. Now, slipstream or you're held liable because you haven't engaged with their text-based things, their email-based things, your whatever else, or your card's frozen, you know? So what you've got is the bank's processes and systems and securities are much more current with what we're consumers are doing. And then you've got sort of like, does the regulators get really tight on it to protect consumers, or do they get really loose on it and say user beware?
Right.
You know, like it's quite random.
That's true.
I think when you have one variable, it becomes easier to predict. When you have two variables, it gets a bit more complicated.
Yeah.
When you have three variables, it's complex.
Yeah.
And complex usually takes time. So I think we're a ways away from it. So I think the utopian world where we no longer have to deal with the shitty pieces of our own finances, I think are a little bit.
I'm looking forward to firing up Claude. Hey, I need to just take care of it. One voice line command prompts.
Oh,
that's what I'm excited for that. I think it's going to come faster, Nikki. I'm more like the 5-year marker, but
the only reason I'm sort of like a dissenter is because we have to, I think LLMs work strongly and powerfully for critical thinkers. Look at a generation, and the reason I say this is because I've got a 20-year-old son.
Okay.
Look at a generation below that, right? They haven't done the spreadsheet to work out what's important. They haven't done the you and I can look at something and discern pretty quickly on intuition, on factual based stuff, whether something we critically think because we're experts in our field. What happens to the generations below us that don't have that heavy lifting and muscle building on discernment? So that's where I think the regulators potentially come in a little bit more, because for you to do a one-line, and I'm sorry, you triggered this, for you to do a one-liner means that you have already discerned the important elements of what that is for you.
I can articulate my constraints, my goals, like that one-liner can be really, really clear.
But what happens if you don't know any of those things? Because you've never experienced anything like this and you've never managed money in that way.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point. I think for folks that are very, very clear and crisp on what they want, it can be a absolutely magical tool. But if you don't know what you want, this magic wand that can give you what you want isn't all that
overwhelmed.
helpful. Yeah.
Overwhelmed. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I need to put that lens on some of this a little bit. I'm too close to personal finance. I've been in it too long. So
but this is what I'm saying. Yeah. Can you imagine the 10-year-olds out there now? I mean, one of the reasons I'm passionate about affiliates is because of financial literacy. I think they are kick-ass amazing. Even if it's for their own pockets, kick-ass amazing about creating financial literacy. But like we have to look at these kids underneath us and how are we going to create that discernment and financial literacy.
No, they're probably remarkably different product experiences, right? Like the product experience you and I get looks one way. The 22-year-old that just graduated, first job, doesn't know what a credit report is, totally different product.
But I mean, welcome to fintech world.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, it's great. That's opportunity for a lot of different niche players to serve those audiences the right way.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, this has been fun, Nikki. Thanks so much for joining us on the pod. I know this has been a long time coming. We finally got it on the schedule today, but this was awesome. Hopefully we can.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, this was fun. You gave me a few things to chew on. But yeah, maybe we can chat again in 6 months, 12 months, how things develop, compare notes again.
Yep, sounds great. Thank you.
All right.